All right, let's talk Los Angeles Chargers. We are getting closer and closer to week one. Football is finally back. A lot of buzz right now when it comes to the Chargers. Of course, all eyes on Justin Herbert in this offense. But the Chargers quietly did an incredible job with a draft class that they're not getting enough attention here, guys. We got some data for you guys today highlighting exactly how the Chargers absolutely crushed it with almost an all-time great position group here with what they did in this past draft with some new rookies getting into the fold. We'll bring you all of that information in just a second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, this Los Angeles Chargers team, everyone understands Herbert gets the attention. Harbaugh gets a lot of buzz as well. And that distracts, of course, from other areas of this group, other areas of this team that are really talented. We know the offensive line got a lot better this offseason. Have to see how they do, of course, on Sundays. We know this receiving core will hopefully be better. But one area of this team that's quietly dominated thanks to some rookies emerging, and it was already a good area, and it's an underrated part of any team in the National Football League right now, is the secondary. The Chargers have done an incredible job. They've pulled out a ridiculously good class. Let's pull up this PFF table to highlight what I'm talking about here. So this is over the course of the entire preseason. These are the best coverage grades, regardless of position. Cornerback, linebacker, safety, it doesn't matter. If you play defense, here are the best coverage grades. And you have right there in the top five, three, not one, not two, but three Los Angeles Chargers. You have Eric Rodgers, who unfortunately is hurt. He's on IR, but you have Nico Reed, number two. And at number five, you have R.J. Mickens, right? So right there, even with just Mickens and Reed, you have two of the best cover guys in the entire preseason. Absolutely did a phenomenal job. Great selections by the Chargers, getting rookies into the fold that are off to a great start. But here's the thing that's so awesome is that we're talking about depth guys here for the Chargers. We're talking about a team that neither Reed or Mickens has to play immediately. These are guys that can take their time to integrate into their defense. You talk about anytime injuries happen on the back end for most teams, disaster usually strikes, right? Especially in today's high-flying offenses. The exceptions to that rule have been teams like the Chiefs, like the Eagles, that have a lot of depth and a lot of talent, and the Chargers are very quickly following that same mold. Let's pull up our second table here to highlight what I'm talking about, Miles, if you don't mind. So this is 2024 data looking at the top 10 coverage grades in terms of PFF data from last season. And you can see the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs are 1 and 2. That's not a coincidence, guys, that the two teams that had the best coverage grade in the entire National Football League made the Super Bowl, right? Right now, the NFL is sort of in a counterbalancing strike to offenses. We saw the Eagles win it with defense last season specifically. Where there was a period of time, especially during that Brady era dominance in the early Mahomes era, where it was, hey, all about high-flying offenses, scoring a lot of points. Can you outscore the other guys? Comebacks galore. Now it's about defense. Who can cover? Who can lock down those high-flying offenses? We saw that in the Super Bowl, what Philadelphia was able to do, and the Chargers, number 3 on this list here with an 83.3 coverage grade. They are following that model last year. It took them to the postseason. Obviously, Herbert and the offense did their part as well. Now with another draft class of exciting defensive backs coming to the fold. Again, we're not talking about guys that played well. We're not talking about guys that did really well. We're talking about guys that were elite of the elite during the preseason that have entered into this Chargers secondary. This position group, people talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and their depth and talent and youth in the secondary and how that carried them to a Super Bowl, sort of an unheralded part of their team. Guys like Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, of course, got a lot of media attention. But that young defensive secondary for Philadelphia and those depth guys really pushed them over the top. The Chargers have that exact same thing going on right now as we get closer to the regular season. Now, is this any guarantee they'll follow the Eagles' path? No, of course. They'll still have to execute. They'll still have to find a way to win those games. They got obviously a tough division. Raiders are better. Broncos made the playoffs. Of course, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. AFC is pretty tough in general. So it's not an easy path for the Chargers, but they are clearly acting on a tried and true model, right? Have a deep, talented secondary with a lot of guys that can cover to counter out all those great offenses. How do you stop the Bills? How do you stop Lamar Jackson? How do you stop the Chiefs, right? How do you win these big games? How do you stop CJ Stroud? The list goes on and on. You have guys that can cover, that can lock down those great receivers, make the passing game inept, right? Everyone always talks about pass rush and things like that, and that's important too. Don't get me wrong, but in modern NFL football, especially with the rules, having guys that can cover is just as important, maybe even more important, having an army of corners. Because if you have receivers that can get open now in 1.5 seconds, there's not a pass rusher alive that can get to the quarterback that fast. The Los Angeles Chargers right now have built a secondary of that talent level with this rookie class added into the mix. Again, not getting a lot of attention, but it absolutely should. This is an incredible job by the Chargers front office. Again, building their secondary unit, which was already pretty good, into what I think will be one of, if not the best in football. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Chargers fans, in the comment section below. Obviously, week one, just a few days away now. So let us know. Give us your prediction, your final prediction for the Los Angeles Chargers win-loss record. Don't worry about the postseason or anything like that. Just give us regular season prediction of what you think their win-loss record will be. 12-5, 13-4. I think they're going to crush it. Maybe 10-7, 11-6, kind of like last year. Maybe a little tougher at times. Maybe they only go 9-8, like whatever it may be. Give us your Chargers prediction for their win-loss record for the 2025 season. Put it in the comment section below. But Miles, I will turn it over to you now. What are your thoughts on this report and just everything going on with the Chargers?
Yeah, Nick, I think one thing you bring up is crucially important for this Chargers team. The fact that they have these young, secondary players coming in, being so effective. And these are guys that are going to be depth pieces for this team. Because as we know, injuries can riddle a team's playoff hopes. They can really ruin a season if you lose too many guys. And having these guys come in and just having that reassurance that, hey, if somebody goes down at the cornerback position, if someone goes down at the safety position, you have guys that can come in and already early on in their career, I know it's just preseason, but against NFL level talent, these are some of the best coverage guys in the league in this preseason area. I think that's very reassuring for the Chargers, a team that in its own right isn't, too much of strangers when it comes to dealing with injuries. So this is a team that knows all too well what can happen when injuries strike. So having that, come into the fold here, seeing the future plays here, I really like that aspect of everything here for the Chargers. Just having guys like Reed, having guys like Mickens be long-term investments. You don't need to play them right now, but also can be so valuable for this team right now that if somebody does go down to injury, you can have someone come in and be able to count on them. I think that is really just undervalued, really something that's not thought of too much by people. People think too much, oh, well, we got these rookies. They're coming in, they're not starting, not a valuable addition, probably a bad draft pick, something that isn't valuable to the team. In fact, not the case whatsoever. Just because somebody isn't starting, they can be very, very valuable to this team going forward. So I think this is great news for the Chargers. I think this Chargers team looking really great. Obviously, offensive side of the ball, offensive line looking great. Running back position gets a big upgrade. I think there's going to be some pressure off of Justin Herbert there with a healthy running back core finally with the Marion Hampton. This is going to be a team that it's looking really, really good. You got great pass rushers with Mack and Dupree. You have just overall a really solid team. Like you said, if you can't cover, the pass rush can't work. So having great coverage guys on this team allow this pass rush to get going, allow guys to get to the quarterback, and just really help this defense be unleashed, help this defense come in and do a lot of great stuff. The Chargers, good last year, a lot of great grades. I think they were overall PFF 6th ranked defense as far as that goes. But I think at times it was a little bit up and down. This is a team that could use a little bit more consistency and having depth at the corner position. That is what screams consistency. You're not going to have as many down games. If somebody goes out, misses a game or two here or there, sprained ankle, something like that, you're going to have quality guys. They're going to be able to fill in here for the Chargers.
Yeah, when we talk about these two rookies, specifically Reed and of course Mickens, we're not talking about like first round picks. We're talking about Mickens being a 6th rounder, Reed, of course, famously the undrafted free agent. So that's where the steal aspect comes into it. The Chargers got great players that are obviously outplaying their draft selection, or in the case of Reed, their undrafted selection. And that's what makes up a core of a team, right? People talk about what pushes championship teams over the top, what makes playoff teams championship teams, what makes borderline playoff teams into the playoffs is when those injuries occur, right? And you have to play your backups, and it's an undrafted free agent or it's a 6th round pick. It happens to everybody, right? How good are they? And what we've seen in the preseason that both Mickens and Reed at the cornerback and safety position, respectively, are really, really good. They can get it done. Elite coverage stuff. Again, we're not talking about guys who did fine, right? We're not talking about guys who, hey, we had to cherry pick some bits of data, say, oh, they had one good game here, or oh, they had one bad game, but they figured it out. Though they were good from start to finish, right? And these are guys that have been good in camp. We've been talking about Mickens and Reed, and everyone has been talking about these guys for a very long time. So none of this should be like brand spanking new information. But now that we have all the data and all the information in front of us, I think it's very clear the Chargers pulled off one of the biggest sort of underrated draft moves, rookie moves, whatever you want to call it, during the 2025 offseason as we get ready for the regular season. And this is the kind of moves that can, again, spur teams over the top. Everyone wants to look at the headlines and the first rounders and the second rounders, and look, they have to produce. But I always talk about it, and I know you and I are on the same page here, Mize. It's that these middle round, these late round undrafted guys that become good players, man, that's the backbone of your team. If you can get good players at low prices, that pushes you over the top. That allows you to sign that extra free agent. That allows you to avoid the salary cap disaster that so many other teams do. And right now, the Los Angeles Chargers have not one, but two, and potentially three of those guys, depending how Rodgers returns, of course. The injury disappointing there, but he had a very bright start to his career. Hope everything turns around for him. But they've got a lot of great assets in the secondary. Again, like I showed with the graphic earlier, PFF, the two teams with the best coverage grade made the Super Bowl last season, and that's likely to be the trend again this season. You got to cover the great receivers. There's a lot of great teams with great receivers. You got to be able to stop them. And right now, the Chargers, with their starters, with their depth, with their present, and with their future, they're perfectly suited to do just that.